Hey guys, welcome to the epidemic. My name is Narb, and we're back with the third installment of this video series. Last week I told you we'd be covering verticality, and well, we're going to do exactly just that. This is something that has been universally accepted as something that is pretty important when creating a map. I'm not saying that your map needs to be extremely tall, but there should be some height variation throughout the map. Most two-dimensional maps with no height change are often so terrible that they are just basically torture to play over and over and over again. Adding a third dimension gives your players so many more ways to encounter with each other. The more options you have, the more replayable your map becomes. There really is no limit to the amount of levels that you can have as long as you can balance them in some kind of way. It really doesn't matter. When people are playing on your map, it shouldn't feel like it's a chore to get to the higher ground. The top and middle and bottom, or however many floors you have, should be able to connect with each other very smoothly. If you limit the amount of ways to get around, then certain areas are going to feel unfair. There needs to be a fair amount of pathways to every area, and they all shouldn't be jump ups or anything awkward like that. Jump ups aren't a bad thing, but if you include too many of them, then the flow of your map is going to start to play a bit worse. Basically, the high ground needs to be desirable, but not absolutely needed. Don't make the higher levels the only thing that players want to head towards, but don't make them too scary to encounter either. Vantage points are a good thing to include, but if they're the only thing that players fight for, then you might want to redesign some aspects. Vantage points should be something that is contestable, but not campable. Steep angles and overpowering sightlines will sometimes make it too difficult for enemy players to approach you when you're in these areas. Make sure that the way that they're set up is a balanced design. I can agree with the fact that it is important to allow your players to roam wherever they want, but I'm also a very firm believer that it is okay to give them an incentive to meet at certain places on your map. Sure, sometimes eliminating this can create for a more unique experience every time you play it, but on the other hand, no direction can lead to some messy gameplay. I would say it is completely acceptable to give slight restrictions to your players when designing your map. So vantage points are not a bad thing. One thing that a lot of forgers like to forget about is the bottom floor of your map. Usually the bottom level of a map has the most room to move around in, whereas the higher levels typically have smaller areas. The main idea out of all of this is that you need to have continuous flow throughout all the levels of your map. However, it doesn't always need to be like this. An interesting example of where this is not the case is on Construct in Halo 3. Construct is pretty much the most vertical map in Halo, yet plays the most two-dimensional. The only place on the map that gets any action is the top floor, and if there ever is a reason that you find yourself there, it's usually just for a short amount of time before you hop into an elevator that takes you all the way back to the top. Even though this map breaks pretty much every guideline that I went over, it is still a beloved map to the Halo community. So there you go. Like I said, nothing is set in stone. There are a few rare cases where you can get away with stuff like that. But to be on the safe side, try to stick to these guidelines for the most part. I'm not really too sure what we're going to be going over next week, so if there's something special that you want to hear about, let me know down in the comments below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll be seeing you in the near future.